The summer air was warm as Haru Tanaka walked up the driveway to his best friend Jake's house, his heart beating with excitement. This was his first summer in the U.S., and he'd been looking forward to spending it with Jake, who had been his anchor ever since he moved here a few months ago. Jake had planned for them to hang out nearly every day, claiming it was a once-in-a-lifetime summer. As he reached the door, it swung open, and there was Jake, grinning wide and already looking like he was ready to jump into something spontaneous. "Haru!" Jake called out, pulling him into a quick, friendly hug. "You made it! Let's kick off summer right!" Haru smiled, adjusting the strap of his bag. "What do you have in mind?" "Everything," Jake laughed. "But first, let's get you settled in. My mom insisted you stay the whole weekend, remember?" Haru nodded, and as they stepped inside, he took in the familiar scent of Jake's house. There was something comforting about it, a mix of coffee, freshly baked bread, and the faint hint of pine. They walked down the hallway, and Haru's gaze flickered up as he noticed a figure standing near the kitchen. Tyler. Jake's older brother was home from college for the summer. Tall, with dark hair falling just above his brows and intense green eyes, Tyler looked every bit as intimidating as Haru remembered. He was leaning against the counter, his arms crossed, watching them. "Tyler," Jake said, "this is Haru. You probably remember him from the last few times he's been over." Tyler nodded, his gaze never leaving Haru. "Hey, Haru. Nice to see you again." Haru felt his face warm. "Nice to see you too, Tyler," he managed, his voice barely above a whisper. Tyler gave a small nod, a hint of a smile tugging at the corner of his lips. "You'll have a good time here with Jake. Just don't let him rope you into any trouble." Jake rolled his eyes. "Come on, don't make me sound like a troublemaker in front of Haru." He laughed, grabbing Haru's arm and pulling him toward the stairs. "Come on, let's go upstairs. I have a whole setup in my room. Games, snacks, the works." As they settled into Jake's room, Haru tried to shake the image of Tyler's lingering gaze from his mind. Tyler had always been quiet and somewhat mysterious, the kind of person who didn't reveal much of himself. Haru found it intriguing, but he'd never had the courage to say more than a few words to him. "Didn't know your brother would be here for the summer," Haru commented, trying to sound casual. "Oh, yeah, he's around," Jake said, shrugging. "He's kind of in his own world, though. Doesn't really do much with me anymore since he's been at college." Haru just nodded, but a strange feeling settled in his chest. Tyler had this intensity about him, something Haru couldn't quite understand. He brushed the thought aside, turning his attention back to Jake's enthusiastic plans for the night. Later that evening, Haru found himself in the kitchen, grabbing a glass of water. He thought he'd be alone, but as he turned, he nearly bumped right into Tyler. "Sorry," he mumbled, his cheeks heating up. Tyler smirked, stepping back to give him space. "No problem. Couldn't sleep?" Haru shook his head, his fingers tightening around the glass. "Just thirsty." "Summer nights can be too warm sometimes," Tyler said, leaning casually against the counter again, his gaze settling on Haru. "How are you liking it here so far?" "It's different," Haru replied honestly, feeling strangely comfortable. "Jake's helped a lot." "Jake's good like that," Tyler agreed, his expression softening. "He's loyal." Haru just nodded, feeling suddenly self-conscious under Tyler's intense gaze. After a moment, Tyler's eyes flickered to Haru's sketchbook, partially visible under his arm. "You draw?" he asked, his tone genuinely curious. "Oh, yeah, a little," Haru said, looking down. "It's mostly just random things." He says that Tyler's lips curved into a slight smile. "I'd like to see sometime. I'm into photography, so maybe we could trade tips." Haru's heart skipped a beat, a mix of nerves and excitement running through him. "Yeah, maybe," he said quietly, hardly believing he was having a conversation with Jake's elusive, almost intimidating brother. Tyler gave him a gentle nod before turning toward the door. "Well, good night, Haru. Enjoy your weekend here." "Good night," Haru murmured, watching as Tyler walked away. As he headed back to Jake's room, Haru couldn't shake the feeling that there was something magnetic about Tyler, something that pulled him in without warning. It was only the beginning of summer, But already, Haru sensed that this was going to be a season he'd never forget.